The final spot in the Final Four up for grabs. Both Auburn and Michigan State were in the Final Four together in 2019. Only one can advance here. Tom Izzo, a perfect 10-0 against SEC teams all time in the NCAA tournament. Well, this game belonged to Johni Broome. Early first half, Broome in the post, spins, lays it up and in, up 12. Minute later, Broome drills the three, outscoring Michigan State by himself, 11-8. Caps a 17-0 run. Start of the run down 2, end of the run up 15. Spartans missed 10 straight field goal attempts. Just under 2 minutes left in the half. Todd Pettiford, the freshman, misses the floater. Broome on the putback. Up 9 at the break. Broome in the first half, 17 points on 7 of 9, 11 rebounds. Joined Zach Edey, only players with back-to-back first-half double-doubles in the NCAA tournament since 2015. Early second, Chad Baker-Mazara to Broome, up 11. Baker-Mazara to Broome. Strong to the bucket, up 11. Broome up to 22 points, but then a concerning moment for the Naismith Player of the Year finalist. Mid-second, goes up to block the shot and lands awkwardly. Oh, hate to see that. Stays on the floor as play continues, holding his elbow after the play. On his way down, takes a bad fall. His mom emotional. That's my boy out there. He says, I'm done. He consults with his parents, goes to the locker room, but with just over 5 minutes left, x-rays on his elbow, came back negative, and Broome is back. Get out your seat. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Let me get in. Let me get in the game. So less than a minute after his return, off the missed three from Michigan State, Broome grabs the board with his left arm. Ensuing Auburn possession, Miles Kelly behind the back to Broome. Pure. Drills the three. Tigers up 12. You can't script it any better. Shades of Willis Reed. Broome a game-high 25 points on 10 of 13. 14 rebounds as he shoots 77%. Broome and Auburn moving on to the Final Four, 70-64. The Tigers advancing to their second Final Four in school history. The other one in 2019. Now trying to cut down nets in San Antonio as Auburn completes the Final Four with all 4 1 seeds. Tracy Wolfson with Bruce Pearl and Johni Broome postgame.
Well, Coach, of course, calling the whole team over here, but congratulations. This team didn't let up once this whole entire game. What is it about this squad?
These guys love each other. They trust each other. And there's been so much responsibility on us being the #1 ranked team in the country. We've been a historic program in Michigan State, a team that gets to the Elite Eight and never loses, okay? We got this guy right here, number 4, best player in the country. He was absolutely the man on the inside. And it's about everybody. We all share it. And how about the best fans in all of college basketball?
It was an incredible crowd having your whole back the whole time. But you talked about Johni. Let's talk about the Willis Reed moment. He goes down. I know there was a lot of concern, a lot of fear.
Yep.
What was that like when he walked back out onto the court and then hits that three?
It was the Willis Reed moment. Flat out was the Willis Reed moment. But then he comes out there, he bangs the 3 ball, and the whole place went absolutely crazy. You know where we're going, Tracy?
You're going to the Final
To the Final Four! Yeah!
Johni, you told me you came out here to dominate. That you did, but please take us through that injury to your elbow specifically. I know you hurt your ankle also, but it's certainly a scary moment for you.
For sure, it is a scary moment. I went down, but my team had my back. I went to the locker room, I still watched the game, and they kept it going, no drop off. I came back, do whatever it takes to help my team win.
Will you be ready to go next week?
I will be, but all glory to God.
You guys enjoy it. You're headed to San Antonio. How does that sound?
Tell him. Better call him. Call God.
Broome's right. His team stepped up. Auburn tied Michigan State 7 for 7 over the 5 minutes with Broome on the bench. And look, that was an incredible story for Broome to come back in this game as he finishes with 25 points, 14 rebounds, 25 points on 10 of 13. That's good for 77%. That's also good for this. First player with 25 and 10 and a 75% or better field goal percentage in an elite game since Houston's Hakeem Olajuwon in 1984. My namesake, Hakeem. Oh, yeah. Matt Norlander, Gary Parrish, Tim Doyle. Tim, you had seen Johni Broome all tournament long. You said he didn't look right. He gets injured here, comes out of the game, then back into the game. What'd you think?
Yeah, that was a warrior performance. No other way to say it. I mean, the numbers don't lie, Gary. He struggled the first 2 games of the tournament, but he bounced back in a big way against Michigan. And then today he was just simply sensational, building his case for National Player of the Year. You know, think about this Michigan State squad. They got the football pads. They're physical. They're going to throw different bodies at you. He was efficient in this game. Hakeem, you mentioned he took 13 shots. He made 10. He was going to the glass. He set the tone. I think what goes underrated when you look at this Auburn team is his defense. Held Michigan to 65 points, 36% from the field. Michigan State, virtually the same exact numbers. Dominant performance, a game that really never got close.
He was terrific. 25 and 14 in a high-stakes game to take your school into the Final Four. I'll be completely honest with you. 24, 36, 48 hours ago, I was pretty sure I was going to submit my ballot for Cooper Flagg for National Player of the Year. At CBS Sports, we submit ballots tomorrow by noon. I still might. I haven't taken a close enough look at it, but what Johni Broome did in this one has at least got me to a place where I feel like I need to reconsider.
Wow.
Yeah, listen, I'm certainly leaning Broome as well. And I saw Cooper Flagg in person in Newark. He's been incredible. I wrote about this, 7, 8 weeks ago. This has been one of the best National Player of the Year races we've seen over the past 20, 30 years in the sport, and only fitting that both of these players are now going to get their teams into the Final Four, 4-1 seeds. It's incredible. On Auburn and what it did here, Broome, the guys just spoke to that. It was awesome. But for Auburn specifically, on Selection Sunday, when it had lost 3 of its Final Four going in, there's a note that 3 of the Final Four losses, no team's ever won a national championship. They regathered themselves. They got a test from Creighton. They got a test from Michigan. And then here against Michigan State, they get it done in convincing fashion. Super impressive by Bruce Pearl's team. They were the last one on the board, literally, and they got it done, and we got all 4 1s going to San Antonio.
You're going to hear this all week long, and it's awesome. We're going to repeat it all week long. All 4 1 seeds in the Final Four for just the second time in NCAA tournament history. The only other time was in 2008. Where was that played? San Antonio. Where is this Final Four being played? San Antonio. All right, back out to Atlanta. Welcome in the legendary Bill Raftery. Bill, you saw Johni Broome go down, then he comes back in. What about the grit that he showed, the toughness in this game?
Yeah, obviously, it looked very serious, no question about it. I mean, it could have been an ankle, could have been a knee. Obviously, the shoulder and elbow, just magnificent effort. And then when he came back and made the 3, I think an emotional lift for this team. They're very unselfish. I think we forget how good they are defensively as well. Everybody knows they're switching, but they recover from a switch or a mismatch as well as anybody I've seen in recent memory. This is a solid basketball team on both ends of the floor with a tremendous leader. He does so many things patiently, never in a hurry, can post up. We saw him make that 3. He's just a solid quality leader.
With Broome on the bench, Auburn tied Michigan State 7 for 7 over the 5 minutes that he was off the floor. What does that say about this Tigers team?
Well, they're connected. They're confident. They're a little deeper than people understand. Johnson came in and gave him some great minutes when Broome went out. Solid in the low post area, can step out and make some shots. But I think what really tells the story about this team is how together they are. They give the ball up. Anybody in a better spot, they make that opportunity, take advantage with the pass. So this is going to be a tough team next week. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a rematch from earlier in the season. The Gators beat the top-ranked Tigers back in February. Auburn was ranked number 1. They had a 14-game winning streak snapped. How might both teams be different at this point when you've got an all-SEC matchup? They know each other well. The 2 coaches know each other well, and Todd Golden and Bruce Pearl. Todd Golden, an assistant under Pearl for a couple of seasons there at Auburn.
I assure you they're not going to change very much. I mean, maybe tweak a few things here on the defensive end in particular. But you know everything about one another. It's all about executing, doing the right things, and playing together.
The legendary Bill Raftery here on CBS Sports HQ. Bill, safe travels out to San Antonio. Enjoy the Final Four.
Thank you very much.
The madness is here, of course. Don't miss a moment of the action on CBS. Download the March Madness Live app to watch every game. We only got 3 of them left. Anywhere, anytime, live. And my name is Hakeem, and this man's name is Matt Norlander, Gary Parrish, Tim Doyle. Tim, you watched Johni Broome like we all did during this tournament, and you said there might be something off with him. He gets injured here, comes back in the game, and he shows his toughness. What'd you see?
Well, the first 2 rounds, he shot 40% from the field. He was only averaging 11 points versus 17 on the season, and I wondered if he was ever going to get it back. Get it back! Oh, he got it back in a big way. He was outstanding against Michigan, and then today, efficient, 13 shots, made 10 of them. He was 2 of 2 from 3, but he showed, Gary, that heart of a warrior. You want to be considered National Player of the Year? You say, I'm done, then you go Willis Reed? It was awesome to see.
He was terrific, and he had been struggling, just like Auburn had been struggling recently. I believe it was in 3 of his previous 8 games before today. He was held in single digits in points. That is not how you become a part of the National Player of the Year conversation. So he needed to get going, and he obviously did, but that was a really scary moment with about 10 minutes to go. I'm not a doctor who can diagnose from, a studio in Connecticut, but I can read lips, and it didn't look good. It sounded like he thought he knew. It sounded like he believed he might not play basketball again at Auburn. And at that point, if you're Bruce Pearl, you're wondering, like, we are in the Elite Eight, we are up comfortably, and this could all slip away right now. And before you can even process all of that, he's already had x-rays done, they're negative, and he's back on the court. So all's well that ends well. They needed a big performance from him, not just to win this game, but to, I think, reestablish themselves as a serious threat to the other teams at the Final Four that have all been playing excellent basketball for a long time. Right now, if you were skeptical of Auburn coming into this tournament after what they did in these at least past 2 games, you got to feel a little bit better about it.
Johni Broome is one heck of a showman. If I can reference the Ion College Basketball podcast from December.
You can.
And my co-host over here. Johni Broome hurt his shoulder, and we thought that he was going to be out for like the rest of the season. He returned the next game. Yes. Okay, so in all seriousness, it's incredible that he did this, but he might be Wolverine. His ability to recover is unreal. And I think in the moment, a tight game, relatively speaking, all right, if I'm not available to be here with my guys, are we really at risk of losing this game? X-rays are negative. He comes back on the floor. And the fact that quickly he snatches a rebound with one arm, and then he hits the 3 when he comes back in. Huge moment. Auburn fans just taking over that arena, obviously, with Auburn being all of, an hour and a half away from a drive from the A. So it was super impressive. And Auburn in doing this, to me, impressive in this regard, too. Not just making the Final Four. And this is the second time Bruce Pearl has done this. When they did it in 2019, he was a 5 seed. It was the stumbles down the stretch. This is a different kind of team, but there were some echoes of when Florida in 07 would go on to win the national championship for a 2nd straight year. Remember, it didn't look in tip-top form in those weeks leading up to the NCAA tournament. Lo and behold, Gators got done back-to-back. We'll see if Auburn can do that. It got pushed by Creighton. It got pushed by Michigan, and then Michigan State to a certain extent, but now we've got the big boys awaiting. And here is, we're going to have so many things to dive into, but this one is an incredible stat. I want to give a shout out to our sports research team. So KenPom goes back to 1996, 1997, and it evaluates teams on their efficiency and their efficiency margin. 4 of the 10 best teams from an efficiency margin standpoint since KenPom started are the 4 teams in this year's Final Four. This really, really, truly might be the most loaded Final Four from a talent and scoring perspective that we've ever had. Should be incredible.
Can't be true because I read on Twitter that college basketball was dead, no Cinderellas. I saw that on Twitter.
Well, you know what that is? It's get your NIL up. Get your NIL up, yeah. Right? That's what we've talked about that this entire tournament. And also, Tim, what I want to hit on here is the fact that Auburn matched Michigan State 7 for 7 over 5 minutes with Broome on the bench. It speaks to how deep this team. We had said this all season long, how deep, how good this team is. You got the freshman Tahad Pettiford off the bench getting double figures.
Well, at that time, that's when Auburn's defense really stepped it up, because when he went out of the game, they actually missed 6 of their next 7 shots, and they scored 2 points. But Auburn's defense was fantastic against Michigan. They held the Wolverines to 65 points, sub 40% from the field. And the numbers almost identical, guys, against Michigan State. 64 points, 34% from the field. So this is an Auburn team that I'm so impressed with their unselfishness. See that offensive possession there? I think like 4 different guys could have shot the ball. It ends up in Pettiford's hands. He bangs down a 3. I was worried about Auburn, and I was holding futures with them in February. And I was like, I'm going to dump these because I wasn't sure how the roller coaster was going to be. We saw the bad Auburn last year against Yale, and then we saw them kind of stumble down the stretch. And then, Gary, I started thinking to myself, did they leave their best basketball in February? I was wrong.
I'm glad Matt brought up 2007 Florida because I think there is some parallels there. That Florida team, and I covered them from start to finish, I think you win a national championship the year prior, you bring back all 5 starters, you're preseason #1. It's almost like the season doesn't even start till you get to the tournament. You can't accomplish what you're back in school to accomplish until you get into the bracket. So everything before that seems less important. And that's why, I mean, I watched Florida lose multiple times in person that year. Then, of course, the tournament starts, they turn it on, win the national championship. Similarly, the second Auburn slide started to happen was the second everybody understood they had just won the outright SEC title, had locked up a #1 seed, and had probably locked up the #1 overall seed. When you hear that from your coach and everybody who talks on TV about the sport, I think it's human nature to let your foot off the gas a little bit, to lose focus a little bit. And then suddenly, because you're in the SEC, you know, historically the greatest conference we've ever seen, you're playing top 20 KenPom teams, one after another. And if you're not sharp against those, even if you're the best team in the country, you can get caught. That is more or less what happened to them. But they have flipped a switch now. They've turned it back on, and they look, especially after today, much closer to the team we watched in January and February than the team we watched stumble into the NCAA tournament.
Bruce Pearl with another shot to win a national championship, got Auburn to the Final Four in 2019. Michigan State was also there. They lost as well. Auburn losing in the national championship, or losing in the semifinals to the eventual champion, Virginia. And you look now, what's next for Tom Izzo? 70 years young, I say, because he's still getting after it. 30 seasons at Michigan State. But the big thing that was their issue all season was three-point shooting. They were 319th in D1 in three-point field goal percentage. They went 7 for 23 in this game. It reared its ugly head because that was what the fatal flaw was for Michigan State all season, Matt.
It did rear its head. I don't want to say this is why Michigan State lost, because Michigan State had shot this poorly from beyond the arc multiple times this season and managed to beat really, really good teams. Maybe not teams on the level of Auburn, but really close. So that was certainly a part of it. It was the bugaboo. We had been talking about that. I saw Michigan State in person back in Maui, and we were talking about it on the podcast. So this is not a surprise that it wound up going this way. But, man, in particular, there were about 3 or 4 shots in the final 3.5 minutes that Michigan State had that were good looks, that were clean looks. Ball just didn't fall into the hoop there. That's not the only reason why, but quite clearly it is a big reason. I will say this on Izzo. You know, he had a team capable of making the Final Four. They come 1 game away from it, and he's not going to retire. Let's just be clear about that. He spoke with that on the record with me this season and last season. He will be back, but knowing Tom, this is just, it's going to eat at him. Like, he can accept losing a game to a team that's really, really good, that Auburn is, but, you know, he had the clip that went viral, you know, a few days back before they got ready to go play in the Sweet 16. And I'm curious to see what Michigan State will be next season. I mean, Jace Richardson, see ya. Right? Yeah. He's going to probably be a lottery pick. And so Michigan State is not a program that is regarded to have top 15, top 20 NIL. It's like top 10 in respect, but respect is not going to necessarily get you another top 2, top 3 seed, get you to an Elite 8. So I will be interested to see how Izzo and that staff, who they retain, who they can get, because there's no offspring of one of the freakiest athletes we've ever seen coming back in and being a lottery pick to that roster next season. It will be intriguing.
Tom Izzo's first loss to an SEC team in the NCAA tournament. One of the all-time greats, a Hall of Fame coach with a heck of a season for the Michigan State Spartans. They come up short in the Elite 8. As now we turn our attention to a rematch from earlier in the season. Florida beat Auburn in February. Auburn was #1 in the country. Florida was 6th in the country. Auburn had won 14 in a row, and Florida knocked them off. So, Matt, Gary, Tim, Gary, how might these teams be different?
Well, listen, these are 2 of the very best teams in the country. It was easier to recognize it with Auburn early than it was with Florida, because Auburn was going out and doing things like winning at Houston, and Florida beat some good teams November, December, but didn't really have the big signature wins that thrust a team onto the national radar. But the efficiency numbers were always there. They were strong in the predictive metrics, and now here we are. Yes, they played in the regular season. Florida won that game. Florida won that game at Auburn. And even though Auburn is the #1 overall seed in this tournament and the outright SEC champ, the numbers are already out. Florida's a 2.5-point favorite in this game. So this is a heavyweight fight. I don't put much stock in what happened in the previous meeting, but these are two teams that, with Florida operating at an extremely high level for a pretty extended period of time. Auburn, not so much in that regard, but might have gotten it back today, taking a 15-point lead early on Michigan State. And then when the Spartans threw a punch and got it to 35-30 early in the second half, Auburn took it, countered with a 3 to get it back up to 8, then another bucket to get it back up to 10, and maintained that 10-point lead, double-digit lead, for much of the rest of the game, even though they only won it by 6. So Florida has been playing better, but I really think this game today could get Auburn back into that same space. And now we've got a really special one lined up for Saturday.
Looking forward to it'll be the first national semifinal. Players know each other. The coaches know each other very, very well. Todd Golden was an assistant for Bruce Pearl at Auburn for 2 seasons from 2014, 2016. Now clashing for a spot in the national championship. Back here on CBS Sports HQ, presented by Belfour Property Restoration. Time now for the Belfour Player of the Game. There's no surprise. I'm going to play spoilers. Johni Broome. Tim is Johni Broome. There's 25 points, 10 of 13, 14 rebounds. He left the game with an injury, came back. He's a player of the game.
There's no other way to say it.
Right.
And, I mean, the cherry on top to the performance, because he already was great, Gary, was the one-arm stuff. Because he grabbed the rebound with one arm, and I was like, oh, does the other arm not work? And then the whole possession, I'm like, ooh, is he going to use the other arm? Is he going to shoot? That was the anticipation that was building up. And then he shoots a 3. He makes a 3. They pan to his parents. They're going crazy. He's going crazy. The emotion of the crowd. It was an awesome performance. It was really something where you thought he was done. He wasn't done. He's out there at one arm. It was absolutely sensational.
My mother was texting me about the game, and she was like, is he going to be okay? And I said, I don't know, but he doesn't look like he thinks he's going to be okay.
Does she have Auburn winning it all?
I believe she does. Yeah. She's very proud of her bracket.
That's good.
She's texted it to me 11 times over the past 7 days. So you think this might be done. Now Auburn's game might slip away. This season it was really bad stuff for a minute. Then he comes back in and just finishes what was already a terrific performance. 13 shots, makes 10 of them, 25 points, 14 rebounds. He has been special for the bulk of this season, had slipped a little bit lately, but reminded everybody in this one, before you hand Cooper Flagg the National Player of the Year trophy, at least take a fresh look at me.
He's a player of the game. There's no doubt about that. And yes, I thought this was all too fitting for Broome to have one more really impressive performance against another high-level team, and the injury element to it. Who knows what's going to happen with Auburn? Maybe it plays Florida, and Florida gets another win, and it gets it done easily, and Auburn gets booted from San Antonio by Saturday night. But if Auburn can manage to win that game and then win Monday night and win a national title, Broome coming back into the game, even though the game was well in hand, him coming back really will be one of the seminal moments of the season. This Auburn team has been impressive for the majority of the season. This was the most statistically dominant team in the country for the first 2+ months. It's gotten a lot of his mojo back, and all of that starts with that guy right there, Johni Broome.
Hi, Hakeem, you know what that was? Who am I?
The Heisman Trophy winner.
That Heisman moment.
Okay.
His Heisman moment.
That's college football.
That was his Heisman moment.
I think it's the John Wooden
Right
Award.
there. Yeah.
Well, it's the CBS Sports National Player of the Year.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Heisman moment right there.
Hey, you know what? Here's a look at the tip times. Florida and Auburn, 2 SEC teams into the Final Four. We've got a representative from the Big 12 champions, ACC champions, Duke, going in the late game. This is also the 5th Final Four game between teams from the same conference since 2000. Michigan State was in one against Wisconsin, and they ended up winning the national championship that year back in 2000. They're only one under Tom Izzo.